All right, CNT125. We are on our network management wireless lab. We just got done configuring the switch. We're now moving on to the router configuration. So I've moved my console cable into the router. Again, I'm using the 4221. We are connected, since the router's connected out to the ISP or the college, it's going to try to do some updates and try to load some things. So what we're going to try right off the bat is to plug a command in to get it to stop doing that. If it does not stop, what we'll do is we'll just unplug that ISP connection for a little while we're configuring, then we'll plug it back in. So just a little heads up on that. So we're going to do enable, and we're going to do config T. We're going to do no service config. And hopefully that'll stop that from trying to update. If it does not, I'll just unplug the ISP connection on the router until we get a bunch configured. Then we can plug it back in, especially the IP addresses on the ports. All right, so we're console on the router. I did the no service config. Let's give this thing a host name. So let's do a host name. We're doing wireless LAN router. After that, let's do our enable password and our remote account. Yeah, it looks like it wants to keep trying to update, so I'm going to hit the enter key. I'm just going to reach over and disconnect that cable going to the ISP for now, but I do need to remember to plug it in later. Yeah, it's saying that that port is down. That's fine. Once I get an IP address and everything on there, I'll try to plug it back in. Okay, so let's do enable secret class. We're then going to do our username, Doug, password. Repeat that to make sure it's good. Okay, after that, let's do our SSH. We need our encryption key, and then we'll do the enabling SSH. So IP domain name CNT.org. We're going to do crypto key generate RSA 1024. So we created the encryption key. So now we're going to enable SSH on my virtual terminal. So line VTY 015, line VTY 015, transport input SSH. Okay, now we'll do login local, meaning, hey, use the local account that we created, the username, Doug, password. Use the local account for somebody trying to connect via SSH. That's the authentication they'll need. All right, let's now configure the outside interface, and then we'll move to the inside interface. So we're going to say our outside interface, gigabit, Ethernet. It's still trying to update. We'll get there. So interface, gigabit Ethernet 0/0/1. That's my outside interface I'm using. This guy right here, gigabit 001. We're going to say on this one, IP address DHCP. We're going to get this to pick up an IP address from the ISP. So I'm going to reach over now, and I'm going to plug that back in. Okay, and I'm going to do a no shutdown on this. If it looks like it wants to turn on already, but I'll do a no shutdown on this to bring it online. And now that should be picking up an IP from the ISP, which it did. And now we have the outside configured. We'll now move on to the inside of the router. So first thing we need to do is turn on the inside interface, and then remember, we're not going to put an IP on, and then we'll create the sub interfaces. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0, no IP address. And we're going to say no shutdown. And now we're going to create the sub interfaces. We need 4, one for each VLAN. VLAN 1, 10, 20, and 30. Okay, so let's do VLAN 1. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0.1 for VLAN 1. Let's put a description on. We're going to say router interface admin VLAN 1. We need the encapsulation .1Q1. We need the IP address, 192.168.0.1. I'm getting that from my map right here, 192.168, oop, they're right there, 0.1, okay? 255.255.248.0, and we can say exit. That's the first one. Let's now repeat for the next one, okay? I'll come back over here. Here is my 10. So interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0.10 for VLAN 10. Let's put the description in. We're going to say router interface employee VLAN 10. Encapsulation on this guy, .1Q10 for VLAN 10. IP address 192.168.8.1. Again, I'm getting this from my map. Okay, I'll show you the map over here real quick. 8.1. 8.1. Enter. Exit. Let's do VLAN 20 now. So now I'm starting to use my up arrow to be a little bit quicker, but I need to make sure I'm editing this. Voice VLAN 20. Encapsulation .1Q20. IP address 16.1. Exit, and now we'll do VLAN 30. Here's 30. And this would be the wireless. Encapsulation .1Q30. IP address 24.1. There we go. Exit. So what I probably want to do now is once I have those, I probably want to do a quick show run on this and make sure they look okay. That's always wise to do. So here's my 000, no IP address, my .1, 0.1, 10, 10, 8.1, 20, 20, 16.1, and then check 30, 30, 24.1. So check all those numbers, make sure they're okay. And I'm going to skim down through again real quick. It's real easy to have a number wrong here and cause problems later. So just double check all your numbers, make sure they look okay. We're also looking at the outside, IP address DHCP. That's good. So now we can move on to our DHCP scopes. We're going to do 3, one for employee, voice, and wireless. Okay. So first thing we need to do, we need to hold back IP addresses so they don't get handed out. IP DHCP excluded address, and we're going to say 192.168.8.1 to 192.168.8.10. We can make it 20 if we wanted to, but I'm at least hold back the first 10. So when I do this, I put the first IP address in the range, space, and then the last IP address in the range of the addresses we want to hold back. So that'll be for the employee VLAN. And I'm going to be smart while I'm here. I'm going to hit the up arrow and do the voice VLAN. Just make sure you have these edited correctly. And then my wireless VLAN. Again, make sure you have these edited correctly. Those all 3 are done now. Now I can move into my scope. So I'll say IP DHCP scope. Pool. The first one's going to be the employee. We need the network for this one. 192.168.8.0. And again, I'm going to get that from my map right here, 8.0. Okay, this is my subnet. Let me scroll up a little bit. 8.0 subnet, 8.0 here, followed by the subnet mask. We need the default router, 192.168.8.1. We don't need a subnet mask there. Okay, just the default router IP. And then we do need DNS 8888. We're going to use Google's DNS. He's right there. Don't forget that one. So there's the employee done. Let's do the voice. We need the network on this one. This one needs to be 16.0. The default router on this one needs to be 16.1. DNS can still be 888. And we also need the option 150 IP. This is for the phones. That needs to point to the sub-interface for voice, so 16.1. So 192.168.16.1. Okay, that's so the phones know where to get their configuration from. Let's do the wireless one now. Wireless. Let's do network 24.0. We need default router 24.1, and we need DNS. There we go. So there is my 3 scopes done. We just did all the reserves first, is what we did. Alrighty, we're now on to NAT. So we need to tell the router which ports are going to be inside, outside, so it knows which way it's translating. So we're going to start by doing the outside. We're going to say our interface for this one, gigabit Ethernet 0/0/1. That is my outside interface. Okay, look at your map. This is your outside interface, gigabit 001. Okay, we're going to say IP NAT outside, and we're going to say exit. We're now going to turn around and we're going to take all these sub-interfaces, 10, 20, 30, and we're going to denote that those are inside. So interface, gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0.10. We're going to say IP NAT inside. We're now going to do 20, IP NAT inside, and we're going to do 30, IP NAT inside. Now it knows which way to translate. We now just need to we have to write the rule that will actually do the translation. And we're going to do one for each of the VLANs. Okay? It's going to be repetitive, but we're going to do one for each VLAN. To do this, we're going to specify a very simple access list 1, that basically defines the network. And then the next line actually uses that network to do the NAT. So access list 1, we're going to permit this first network, 192.168.8.0. We need the network 8.0, and we're going to use the inverse mask, 0, 0. Okay, we borrowed out to the 8 place, so the inverse is going to be 7.255. Okay, so there's my access list 1 permit. Then we're going to say IP NAT inside source list 1. We're saying, okay, inside source list 1, this network, please do something with it. Well, we're going to say, we're going to use interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/1, the outside, and do overload NAT, which is port address translation. That's the type of NAT we want to use. So we define the network up here and called it basically 1, and now we're saying, hey, that network 1, please NAT it to this interface out here using port address translation. That's what we just did. So let's now repeat that for the other 2 networks. So this will be 2 and network 16, subnet 16. And we'll do IP NAT inside source list 2. The rest will stay the same. Access list 3 for the 3rd network. This will be 24 now, subnet 24. And we'll say IP NAT inside source list 3. So if I look at these, what I should see down there, under my interfaces, I should see IP NAT inside, IP NAT inside, IP NAT inside, IP NAT outside under the gigabit 0/0. Here is the permits. This is where we define the networks. And then here's where we actually told it to do NAT, the type of overload or type of NAT we need, which is overload, which is port address translation. This is where we actually told it how to do, what to do. So now that we have that configured, we should be able to save our config and start hooking up nodes and testing our configuration. We'll do that in the next podcast.